So today I'm joined by Nicola Hall from Hall of Cakes. Thank you so much for coming in to join me. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you for having me. I've been really looking forward to it.
So tell me, how did you get started in the wedding industry?
Oh, God, it seems so long ago now. I started making cakes probably, I think, 18 years ago. A friend asked me to make a christening cake for a little boy. My personality is quite obsessive. So if somebody asks me to do something, I'm literally, it's got to be 100%. And I thought, well, I've never made a cake before in my life, but this friend is quite bossy and she'd been let down by somebody. So it just went from there. And that little cake went from that to bigger cakes, then on to wedding cakes.
Fantastic.
And that was how we got into weddings and the industry.
And whereabouts are you based?
We are based in Kent, in Bexley Village. So on the borders of Kent and South East London.
So how far will you travel to deliver a cake?
We go all over. So we do a lot in London. We had a wedding in Scotland a couple of years ago.
Wow.
If somebody wants us and they want to, obviously the delivery was a little bit more expensive to Scotland than it is to, a Kent venue or a London venue. But if somebody wants us to go, we'll go.
Brilliant. And how did you get that cake to Scotland? Did you drive it or get on the train?
We have two drivers that are black cabbies. So one of them, Dan, drove us all the way up to Scotland with me and the cake all in sections in the cab. Because if you imagine, a black cab's got a lovely flat base, lovely flat floor. So we assembled it when we got there. And then my colleague went on the train with a lot more tools and everything else and met us there. So
perfect.
Yeah.
And how's your business evolved over the years?
I think, as you know, Carol, the wedding industry or the events industry always goes in sort of peaks and troughs anyway. I think how it's evolved. So we started off doing smaller cakes. Then they got bigger and obviously into wedding cakes. When I first started out, I was always very interested in these sort of old-fashioned techniques of cakes, like the piping, the sort of really intricate detail that I thought had been lost over the years. And with cakes, there's always fads that come in. We've had wonky cakes, we've had cupcakes, all of these different things. But my thing was to stick with traditional, always stick with traditional and do it really, really well.
Yeah.
So that has evolved, and I'm proud to say that in the UK, we're probably quite known all over as being, one of the top sort of really traditional cake makers that do all of those sort of old-fashioned, intricate piping styles.
Yeah.
And I'd say they've just got bigger, which is great. But as we were talking earlier, sometimes then people forget that we do small cakes as well. So the cakes have evolved. They've just got bigger and bigger. But we do everything. We do everything. We do big events, we do small events, we do kids' parties, weddings, everything.
I've obviously seen your cakes many times. And what I find amazing is the little petals. I mean, the detail is just incredible. I mean,
thank you.
It must take you so long to make. I mean, how long does it take to make just one sort of petal for a cake?
Well, we say a rose takes about 12 to 15 minutes, one rose. So it's all done sort of layer by layer. So you start off this sort of tiny little cone and then you build and build and build until it's a lovely big rose. And I think when you say they take hours, yes, thank you, because I think that's often what people don't appreciate.
Yeah.
It's the time. I'm sure we'll get on to talking about pricing and things, but when sometimes you give somebody a price, they'll just send you a picture and it's covered in roses and they'll say, how much for this? And you give them a price and there might be this like, but without all those roses and sugar flowers, it's a fraction of that price.
Yeah.
It's the time. They take hours and hours.
And obviously your drawing is incredible as well. Obviously, the cakes, I've seen a lot of your beautiful, the birthday cakes and all the custom cakes, they are absolutely incredible. And there was one, the Mad Hatter's one I loved that's on your Instagram.
Yeah.
I mean, that was incredible. How long did that take?
Oh, my God, I'm not ready to talk about it. Yeah, I think where our talent is really between the team, we've all got our different there's three of us. My forte is really in design as well. It's putting all these ideas together and then building it. Simone is our model maker. So and Wendy is just good at everything. She's amazing. Sketching it first and then kind of building it from there. And, sometimes it goes completely off-piste, as I'm probably doing now.
No.
But yeah, I've forgotten the bloody question now. Where were we?
How long did the Mad Hatter cake take you?
That's a week's work.
Wow.
That is a week's work, yeah, with all the little models and bits and pieces as well, yeah.
And quite often I've seen your cakes where you've got the couple might want their dog on the cakes. I've seen you draw little dogs on wedding cakes and all sorts.
Yeah, so as you know, you're an animal person yourself. People, I think more than ever now, love their dogs.
Yeah.
And at times in the last couple of years, I've, thought of a rebranding that like Dog Cakes Are Us or something, because we did one model of a dog and my goodness, we have had so many requests for, dog cakes or, all those little models. You could have just like, the plainest cake, but a model of something really special on.
Yeah.
And I think that's, it's a really personal touch as well.
Yeah. No, they're fantastic. So talk us through the process of when a couple, they've decided on what they want. Mm-hmm. So talk us through the process of the design and the baking and the delivering.
Okay, so we often couples come to see us. Often it's on Zoom. We'll sketch, we'll chat. Sometimes, people have a really firm idea already of what they want. Sometimes they don't have a clue. So what I would often say to people is if I show you, maybe if they don't have a clue, show you 6 or 8 images of cakes that are all quite different. If you had to choose one of those now, what one would it be? And that gives me such a good insight of where they're coming from. And then it evolves from there. And then we might take a bit of, detail from the bride's dress or the colour of the bridesmaids. All little details or something that's more personal to them, where they met. It could be anything, really. Story cakes have become quite popular, actually, for weddings. That we've done in the last couple of years, sort of building up a cake design from where the couple met to the wedding day.
Yeah.
We'll design it. We'll send the couple a sketch, or we'll present them with a sketch. If they're with us, they try some samples, or we can get some samples out to them in the post, whatever they want to do, really. And then, we go from there. Sometimes the design evolves over time. What will often happen is if somebody really wants to book us quite a way in advance, but they haven't got their flowers sorted or their colours sort of firmed up, we will actually say, come back to us 3 to 6 months before the wedding.
Okay.
Book us now. We'll do a save the date deposit and come back to us, because otherwise what we found, we've been doing this for many years now, we're sort of 17, 18 years in, is that we would agree a design, but if the wedding was quite a way in advance, it would change.
Right.
Because trends change.
Yeah, absolutely.
In-laws get involved. All sorts of things happen that could change the colours of the wedding, anything. So we have found that is the safest thing to do, actually.
Okay.
Is come back to us once everything is sorted, because we often find the cake is probably better if it's one of the last things to design, because you've got everything else sorted. You know what flowers you're having, you know what colours, the venue sorted, stationery, pretty much everything. Yeah. In terms of stationery as well, that's quite a key thing, because often we'll copy the stationery where they'll have their initials on the invites or the place settings, and we'll include that on the cake, and we'll exactly mirror that,
Right.
you know, the font and everything else. So that's quite a key element. So, yeah, we pretty much say, if you want to book in your date, brilliant. But if you haven't got everything sorted, let's do that nearer to the time.
That's so sensible. And I'd never thought it would work that way. But that makes so much sense to me. It's the same with me, how I work with my videography. You know, I always take the finer details down much, you know, literally, you know, a month or two before the wedding.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
as you say, everything can change.
Everything changes and their ideas change as well.
Yeah.
When you book your wedding, what you want then to what you actually want a month before your wedding or 2 months or whatever can often change
Yeah.
so much. So, yeah, that's how we work.
Fabulous. So how long before the actual wedding day do you start baking the cake?
Oh, okay. So the baking actually is the last bit, really. If it's a wedding cake that's got lots of sugar flowers, they can be done months in advance.
Oh, okay.
Literally months in advance.
Right.
Depending on what work we've got. This year, for example, we've got a few big weddings and lots of smaller ones where they've got lots of flowers.
Right.
So we're making those now. Some of those are done. Because they're absolutely fine. We store them in airtight containers. They're in a dehumidified unit.
Right.
So they're perfectly safe and, you know, airtight and everything else. So they can be done weeks in advance,
Okay.
weeks and months in advance. And then the actual cake, if a wedding is on a Friday, we'd probably start baking on a Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah, it's a balance. And it just depends on the cake. If the cake has lots of piping on, you either bake a day earlier than you would normally, or there's 3 of you working on that cake.
Right.
Because of freshness.
Right.
So it's always a balancing act between the amount of time you need and keeping the cake as fresh as possible for the
Okay.
wedding date.
And then what about delivery? So on the wedding day, how do you... Because that must be quite scary, carrying the cake from the kitchen to the car, isn't it?
Delivery is horrendous, utterly horrendous. It is the bane of my life. It is incredible. It can be incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'd say about that is we don't take risks. Only we deliver our own cakes. Or one of our trusted drivers, but say one of our trusted drivers, that's just for, you know, a single tier.
Yeah.
Anything that's stacked or that needs to be stacked and assembled, that is only done by us.
Yeah.
We don't use couriers or anything like that.
And I've seen you many times do that. And,
Yeah.
And then you're doing the final touches on the day. And
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
you then pipe it. I've seen you piping many times on the day as well. And just...
Yeah. So, as I say, we don't take risks. We would rather be working at the venue for hours than take the risk of transporting something that could go wrong.
Yeah.
It also depends on the venue. It depends on so many different things. For example, if it's a venue in the country, as you'll know yourself, down in Kent, you can come across cattle grids. My absolute worst nightmare.
God, I hadn't thought.
And other people just don't think of these things. But if we know there's a cattle grid, I mean, you cannot even stack 2 tiers. Well, we wouldn't. We'd have to assemble it on site because it's, you know, this judgment. I know, it's horrendous. Potholes, awful. Funny enough, actually, we delivered a cake a couple of years ago up to Newcastle, and it was one of our easiest deliveries. It was hours and hours of motorway, but we did not come across a pothole.
Wow.
A roundabout, a cattle grid. Literally got on the motorway and this venue was so close off the motorway at the other end. It was a dream.
Oh, perfect.
So, it all depends on the venue. And that's the other thing as well. That's knowledge. That's been... that's experience of being in the industry for many years and knowing these venues and knowing what you're up against. Yeah, but delivery can be quite stressful.
Yeah, I bet. I'd never have thought about cattle grids being an issue.
Oh, absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare.
And what is the ideal setup at a venue for you?
An ideal setup is where we drive up to the venue with no potholes or cattle grids or anything like that. And we haven't got to walk up flights of steps, down flights of steps. It's all of these things.
Yeah.
Obviously, easy access with the vehicle. And then we need to check the route of where we've got to get to. So as you know yourself, with some venues where you actually are able to park up, you've got quite a long walk until you're at that cake table. You know, most of the venues we know because we've already been. If we haven't, we would like to do a site visit, or we will speak to the venue. And because if we are going to stack, for instance, it depends on the weight. For instance, if you've got a 4-tier cake or a 5-tier cake that's pretty damn heavy, and you've got a long walk from the vehicle to the cake table, you need to know that.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to carry that cake all that way. So the ideal setup is, you know, obviously the ideal setup will be if I pull up and the cake table's, you know, there.
By the door.
But that is, as you know, that is never, ever the case.
No.
So it's just, in an ideal world, driving in, plonk it on the cake table, and then driving away like we're in the Dukes of Hazzard. But that rarely happens.
And which venues do you tend to work most often at?
So we work all over Kent, lots of lovely venues, Hever Castle, Leeds Castle. We'd like to do a lot more in Kent, actually. We do a lot in London, central London. I mean, we'll go wherever.
Go anywhere.
Literally go anywhere, yeah.
So one of the biggest cake fails I've ever seen was in a marquee where the cake had been brought in nice and early, but it was very hot, and the cake it was a naked cake with lots of beautiful fruits on it, and it melted.
Oh my God.
And it was a disaster. So has that ever happened to you in a marquee?
No, we just wouldn't allow it to. I mean, the first thing you said there was they brought it in nice and early.
Yeah.
If it's 25 degrees on your wedding day, I mean, lucky you, or even hotter we've had, haven't we, in the last couple of years, we would be delivering that cake as close to the deadline, you know, in the afternoon, literally before the guests are arriving.
Yeah.
But, you know, without being rude to the person who made that cake, that to me would smack of inexperience.
Yeah.
And also, I've got to be honest, marquees, it's hard work because it is, you know, you're open to the elements. You haven't got aircon. They get so hot in there.
Yeah. Another issue I have personally with marquees is floors, because, you know, it's an uneven floor, isn't it? I mean, that for you, walking a cake across a cloth floor on grass.
Oh my
sometimes.
God, it's horrendous. Yeah, what can I say about marquees? Is it okay to say if you can't afford to build a proper floor in a marquee, just don't bloody have one?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, include that, keep that in. Oh my God, we've seen, horrendous.
Yeah.
Horrendous. I mean, it's like you can't just carpet a field.
No.
And then go, that's a floor. It just, no.
It doesn't work, does it?
Never mind the poor people are going to dance on that later. No, not good.
Yeah.
And wonky tables.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
It's, you know, it's a nightmare. Marquees, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
Sorry, marquee companies, but no, I'm not a big fan. We do actually, we have in our terms that we will not place your cake on an uneven, or, you know, the table's literally like going down a ski slope. We just won't put the cake on it. No. It's only a couple of times. I mean, not a nice thing to do, to have to contact a couple on their wedding day when they're getting ready and everything else. But we have had to do that, unfortunately, and say, look, what is your decision? We'll let you make the decision. I can put your cake on this table that is wonky because maybe I need to get out more, but I do love a spirit level. And we take it everywhere. I've actually got a nice, I've got a pink set now.
Oh,
that's
fantastic.
got 3 different ones in. Yeah, I know, it's very impressive. Yeah, probably need to get out more. But anyway.
You do, Nicola.
Yeah. But yeah, and we've had to ring and say, what do you want us to do?
Yeah.
We can put your cake on there, but I can't guarantee you. And then that is up to them.
Yeah.
That is up to them. I think one of the answers was, it'd be fine. Well, that's up to you. I think she'd had a couple of glasses of champagne. And to be fair, it probably is going to be fine. But as a business, we're not going to take that risk.
No.
But yeah.
No, you've got to cover yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, 100%.
And it makes sense. I mean, I've seen it because obviously by the time they cut the cake, it's, very often, in the evening, the cake's been sitting there all day. And I have seen on another occasion, again, in another marquee, I mean, the cake, when they came to cut it, it just looked completely wonky. And it looked to me like some of the tiers had slipped as well. So, yeah, it has to be flat, doesn't it? Absolutely has to.
Has to be flat, and it just can't be too hot in there.
Yeah.
It just can't be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, nice air-conditioned room, please.
Yes, that's much better. So talk to me about flavours. How have flavours changed with wedding trends over the last couple of years?
Okay, well, back when we first started, we did so many fruitcakes. And that really is not... It's a shame, actually. We, funny enough, we had quite a few Christmas cake orders last year, and it was lovely to get that smell. I love that smell of rich fruitcake. But we used to make so many, really big tiers for the bottom tier. Yeah, and it's just not the case now. No. So that's really changed. And as I say, we do more of them at Christmas now, but not so much for weddings. Often people will have a little fruit tier as a top tier, and sometimes they'll keep it. We do all different flavours, anything from sort of lemon to pistachio, chocolate. Lemon's probably one of the most popular. Or a lot of people just go safe with the vanilla. But you can have, obviously, if you've got a multi-tiered cake, you can have every tier is a different flavour.
Brilliant.
You can save a tier, for the next day or whatever, if you're not going away straight away to enjoy with family, friends. There's so many options.
Yeah. And do you do vegan and gluten-free options?
Yes, we do. The dietary requirements now have got so much. Yeah. It can be quite hard work, I'll be honest with you, because a really lovely, good quality cake needs eggs. It needs, and sometimes you do feel like saying, I've got a box of icing in the garage that I can give you, but
must be tricky.
Yeah, it can be tricky. Yes, we do. Absolutely, we do. But you sometimes are, in my opinion, compromising on quality. I mean, I would say to people, if you have one or two guests that are gluten-free or whatever, do you want your cake that's got to cater for 120 people to all be gluten-free or dairy, just to cater for that one or two people? It just seems a bit mad for me.
Yeah, it seems a bit senseless, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, that's a personal choice. Yeah. But yes, of course we do. But we do like to keep the taste.
So how do you balance the cake's visual appearance with the flavours, and which is most important?
Oh, good question. Neither.
Okay.
Neither. Has to taste beautiful. Having worked with lots of chefs over the years, the main advice that we've got is keep it simple. So yes, we do lots of flavours, but we don't combine. I think sometimes you can see on other cake makers all these menus of combining. Oh God, I can't even think of an example now.
No, I've seen a lot, sort of like butterscotch and honey. And,
and I just think, do you know what? At a wedding, especially a wedding, is keep it simple, but do it really, really well. Yeah. And people, in the main, people want to know what they're getting.
Yeah.
Only you know your own friends and family, whether they're, traditional Victoria sponge people or fruitcake or whatever. It has to taste nice. It has to taste beautiful. And we won't compromise on taste for the aesthetics.
Right.
It is all on point. Yeah. It's all on point.
Okay. And which part of the job do you enjoy the most?
Driving home. After the delivery, I'm like, yay!
Cracking the bottle
I'm
of wine.
I'm not joking. No, I think when you set up a lovely wedding cake, be it this big or this big, and you just stand back and you take it's lovely. It's just so nice. And I think, the drive home is quite cool, actually. It is quite cool.
It's relief, isn't it, though, to
It's
have
relief.
actually delivered that. I mean, that's certainly how I feel. When I've finished filming a wedding for the day, I get in that car and think, oh, thank God that all went really well.
Yeah.
And it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And it must be the same for you. It's a phew, it looked great.
But the biggest phew is when you get a message the next day or whatever. Not that you expect that, but it's so nice when the bride says, or if you put a little picture up or something on your socials, and then you get a message saying, oh my God, it was amazing. Thank you so much. To me, that is what completes the job for me.
And obviously with the art of photos and video, you get to often see their kind of, they're cutting the cake.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. But I think to me, a job is never complete until you know that they absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
That means the world to me.
Yeah.
And that they take the time to, because it's a lot, isn't it? You've just got married. You're all in the buzz of everything. Yeah. You've got all of these suppliers that have all done an amazing job. But to take the time and send you a little note and say, oh, thank you so much, it was lovely, etc. It's just, it means the world.
Yeah,
it really
brilliant.
does.
So I've seen loads of beautiful tall cakes on your Instagram. And in person. Do you also offer much smaller cakes for smaller weddings?
Yes. To be honest, Carol, that is actually one of our biggest frustrations, is that how we market ourselves. Because, yes, we do lovely big grand cakes, but the minute you put them on your Instagram or your website, which you want to because you want to show them off, we can do this, sometimes it puts people off because they sort of automatically assume that you don't do the little smaller cakes as well.
Right.
And we do. We do anything, micro weddings, which are so much more popular now, as you know, on weekdays and smaller, more intimate celebrations. Fantastic. You can have a 1-tier cake. So, we do everything.
So no job's too small?
No job's too small.
So what sort of price are we talking? What do your cake prices range to and from?
So a micro cake, just a single tier, you'd be looking at probably $195 to $250, depending. I mean, again, it's all down to the detail.
Yeah.
All down to the detail. I mean, yes, you could have a single tier that was, pretty cheap, but you then want to cover that in sugar flowers, that's going to, go into the hundreds because that is the time. So it's all down to the detail. What has become more popular in the last few years is the more sort of, it's called Lambeth piping, the thick, sort of the chunky piping.
Yeah.
That's, that is a really popular design for the smaller and the more micro cakes, actually, and maybe just a single flower or something like that on it. Yeah, start at sort of $195, but go up to anything. The sky's the limit.
Yeah.
If you want us to reach the sky, we can, not a problem. But you're gonna pay for that.
Yeah.
But I think that is our biggest frustration is we do smaller cakes too. I can't emphasise that enough.
And what is the tallest cake you've ever made? How tall was it?
Oh, my God. Well, as you know, I'm not blessed with height myself. So we do have a step ladder that we take with us. The tallest one we did was for a big event called Fantasia a couple of years ago. That was 9 tiers.
Wow.
It was an absolute whopper. And the design as well was quite slim and tall. So it wasn't sort of 9 tiers that was quite sort of fat and chunky.
Yeah.
It was very sort of slim and tall. Yeah. Luckily, my colleague Wendy is a lot taller than me. So that really helps, just getting things off the top shelf in the kitchen helps. But we do take some steps with us.
Oh, I bet. So how tall do you think that was when it was on top of the table?
Well, I don't actually know the answer to that.
Oh, 6 foot?
Oh, God, yeah.
7 foot?
Yeah, easily 6 or 7 foot, yeah.
Wow. And obviously I know you've done quite a few celebrity cakes in your time.
Yes, we have.
So tell us about some of those.
Yeah, we have done a few celebrities.
We did the Fern McCann one together, didn't we?
Yes.
That was a while ago now.
Yeah. So we've done actually a lot of sort of reality TV stars. We've done a lot of those. Not when we first started out, but probably 10 years ago when sort of Towie was really quite a big deal. We did quite a lot of those. We've gone on to do some of their weddings, which is quite exciting. We've got one later this year, actually, which is quite exciting. Yeah, we've done quite a few celebs. One of my favourite ones was Jordan and James Cracknell.
Oh, wow.
The Olympian, yeah. They came round to see us, which was really exciting. So I just had this appointment booked in, and they had a planner working with them, a wedding planner. And a couple of days before the appointment, the planner rang me and said, oh, I'm just going to let you know that it is somebody quite well known so that you know, because you will recognise them. Well, I'm so glad she did because, our business is run from home. We've got a separate studio and everything else. So there's a knock at the front door. And there's James Cracknell standing there.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And I'll just say as well, he's pulled up in his car and the number plate is 6 GB.
Oh, wow. Brilliant.
6 gold medals, GB.
Fantastic.
And it was just like, wow. And it was a really good, so down to earth, such a lovely couple. It was a really warm summer's day. And my husband was out in the garden trimming the hedges, trimming his bushes. Well, Jordan and I and the planner were busy talking all things cake and, James obviously got really bored and he asked if he could use the toilet. Yes, of course you can. 10 minutes later, he hadn't come back. I was like, and I'm starting to feel a little bit awkward thinking,
where is he?
Oh my God, has he got locked in or whatever? Anyway, meeting we were winding things up anyway. James he'd taken himself out in the garden. He's sitting at our garden table chatting to my husband while my husband's trimming the bushes. And my husband says to him, that was one of the most surreal moments. There he is, trimming the bushes on a Saturday afternoon. And James Cracknell was just sat there having a chat.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was nice.
Brilliant.
But yes, we've done lots of celebrities and that that's lovely. We've met some amazing people and we've been to some amazing places. But I would just really love to say that I don't care if your wedding or your event is at the local community centre. It's people come to us because they want a lovely cake.
Yeah.
It's not about where you're getting married or... none of that matters to me.
Yeah. We
want to deliver beautiful cakes. So that is what's important to us. And no cattle grids or road bumps and roundabouts is really, that's all we want.
Nice, easy drive.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
What changes have you seen in trends for cakes over the years?
Well, when we first started out, as in any business, you build up your equipment. And you start off with your standard size cake tins, so your rounds and whatever. We invested in every single square tin size. And 17, 18 years ago, we were using them. Not as often. I can honestly say I've not used one of those square tins for probably 5 years.
No.
So that is a thing.
Okay.
As you'll know with weddings, trends come and go.
Yeah.
With cakes. We've had wonky cakes, we've had cupcakes, we've had a cheese stacked, all of those things. But we just stick in our own lane.
Yeah.
We stick in our own lane. We do what we're good at. And, we stick to that, really.
Yeah. Very sensible.
Yeah.
So what's the most favourite cake that you've ever made?
Oh, well, that would be about 4 years ago, the one that paid for my garden furniture. It's all about the money. Oh, my God, we've done so many. That's such a hard question. That is such a hard question. I actually don't know if I can answer that.
Okay.
Because we've done so many different styles. And I think when you look back and you kind of, when you're nearly 20 years in, you often forget what you've done.
Yeah.
You look back and you go, oh, my God, that was we love doing that one. And then you look at something and you go, oh, but we love doing that one. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can answer that.
Well, one of your cakes that is one of my favourites it was a Hever Castle wedding, and it was about 4 or 5 tiers, and the flowers just curved around so beautifully.
Yeah, the cascade.
It was so subtle, but it was just like the most perfect cake to me. It was just beautiful, really beautiful.
I think the sugar flowers on cakes always look beautiful.
Yeah.
I think one of my real sort of loves is the piping. One, because I'm bloody good at it. And it's just those old styles that, that are traditional. I do love a bit of piping.
Yeah. I did also see you did a beautiful carousel cake at Christmas time.
Yeah.
That looked stunning.
Yeah. God, that was
Who
a
was
lot
that
of work.
for? What was it? Was it Christmas?
That was for one of our a regular client that he's been with us for years. David, he gets so excited about, what cake he's going to have for the kids and everything else. His wife, God, she's in despair, poor love. But yeah, and actually bringing that cake up leads me on to something that's become a bit of a problem lately is AI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because David sent us this image of a cake that he's like, I really love that. Can you do something similar? And I looked at it and thought, oh, yeah. And I thought, no, that's not real.
Really?
Yeah.
An AI cake?
An AI cake.
Wow.
And there's certain things you can just think, you can just tell. And, we pride ourselves on being pretty damn good with a bit of icing and cake.
Yeah.
But, there's certain things that just aren't achievable in the minutest detail.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we did do proud to say, a beautiful, beautiful cake. And I'm even more proud because the original inspo image was actually AI. Yeah.
Wow. I'd have never thought that. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's becoming a bit more of a thing, actually.
Gosh. And are there any money-saving tips you could give to couples at all?
Yeah, 100%. If your venue has got high ceilings and it really does lend itself to having a tall cake, go for height rather than detail. Because if you try and do both, it's going to cost you a lot more money.
Right.
So you can go tall and more classic and plain. You can put some dummy tiers in. It's keeping the detail down.
Right.
It's the sugar flowers that cost the money.
Yeah.
It really, really is. I say having some dummy tiers in is a cost save. However, sometimes we get people send us photos of cakes, maybe ours or maybe that they found online, that are covered with decoration. And they say, oh, but if we just have one tier that's real, that won't cost much, will it? Well, yeah, it will actually, because all of that decoration is where the time is.
Yeah.
So sometimes if they're heavily decorated, whether it's got cake inside or polystyrene is kind of neither here nor there. It's the same amount of work. It's keeping it plainer, using fresh flowers rather than sugar flowers. You still adding that bill onto your florist bill.
Yeah.
But that is much cheaper than paying us for hours and hours and hours of sitting there making all these, tiny, intricate flowers.
Yeah. And it's not many flowers, is it? When you see flowers on cakes, it's not loads and loads, is it? So it's not going to be that costly to have fresh flowers on, is it?
No, I mean, it really just depends what look.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the cakes we've done like a whole big sugar flower base. I mean, that is obviously very extravagant. But if you just want a couple of, maybe like a nice ball on the top tier, display on the top tier, and a couple of little poses, that's not going to break the bank.
Right.
But yes, you could have that in fresh flowers. It really just depends on the look you want. But I would say to people, if you are on a bit of a budget or the cake is not, of course the cake should be important to you. It should be more important than anything. I'm going to say that. But if it's really not the be-all and end-all your cake, don't spend a load of money on it.
Yeah.
Have a nice cake, put some fresh flowers on it. It's going to look beautiful.
Yeah.
Spend the money on something else. I mean, we take orders and for the most extravagant cakes we've done over the years. Amazing. Would I have that wedding cake personally? No. No. But everybody's different, aren't they? I mean, we've had people come to see us that are having a really, quite budget conscious wedding, but they want an amazing cake because that's been her dream since she was a little girl.
It's what's important to them, isn't it? They've already got an idea, haven't they, generally?
Yeah.
Before they see you.
Yeah. Or we've spoken to florists obviously, like you, we know lots of people in the industry that have done a massive, amazing wedding with this huge budget for flowers, and they've had a cake from M&S.
Yeah.
That's what you want. That's all you want.
Yeah.
It's your wedding. It's your day.
Yeah. And what's the worst disaster that's ever happened?
Oh, now that would be, I wouldn't say a disaster. It weren't the best, but it wasn't a disaster. A wedding we did up in Scotland, the one I was saying about earlier, a couple of years ago. Now, with the best will in the world, communication is not always, you can't account for everything. So this cake was huge. It was huge. And it was going in a glass marquee that was purpose-built for this wedding. We were up there for 3 days.
Wow.
Because we did 2 cakes actually, one for a party the night before, and then for the wedding, the big wedding cake for the following day. So we've got there, and the wedding cake, we said to the planner, the wedding cake is all in sections, and it's got hundreds of flowers on it and little leaves and thousands of buds and leaves and whatever. Right, where do you want us to leave this overnight? Because then we're going to come back tomorrow and set this up. And the planner said, which was the right answer, that's going to go in the glass marquee, come back and set up tomorrow. So I've gone in the glass marquee, and there's no flowers in there because they're all being put in there tomorrow.
Right.
Now, icing does not respond well to moisture at all, humidity. Right. Back at the studio, we have got an industrial dehumidifier because you need that. Yeah. That's what you need. And I've said to the planner, so there's no flowers in here going in overnight, are they? No.
Because the flowers will retain, and they'll be sitting in water as well, presumably.
Yeah, and this is a big wedding.
Right.
This is a big wedding with a lot of flowers.
Yeah.
The next morning, we didn't need to go back to there to set up the cake till about, I don't know, midday, something like that. It was quite a late wedding. I rang the florist because I'm good friends with her, and I'm sort of like, I said, I'm a bit of a spare part this morning, maybe I could come over and give you guys a hand. She went, yeah, do that. So I've gone back over to the venue, and I've pulled up outside the marquee, and I thought, oh my God, there's a lot of flowers in there.
Oh, no.
I've walked in, and it was like the tropics.
Oh, God.
The humidity was unreal. It was unreal. But it was stressful. I felt sick. What are we going to do? However, we take with us everything to repair, so what we did.
So had it just softened?
Well, the leaves, it was fine, but the leaves had just gone,
oh God,
like that. They were repairable,
right,
but we needed to get the moisture out of them.
Yeah.
We go and buy a dehumidifier. We take all of those leaves, because colouring as well increases the moisture in it. So if you've got quite high density colour, like a deep green, which they were, that increases the moisture. So we need to get all of those leaves out of that cake. We need to get them in a dehumidified room, and we did it. We did it. But we've also got with us, because Wendy was coming up on the train, she's got spare leaves, she's got spare everything. Right. She's arrived by then. So it was stressful, but you get it done.
Yeah.
You get it done. And as you know, Carol, in the events industry, things happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things do go wrong. They do.
Yeah.
But I think it's about being experienced. It's about knowing what to do.
Yeah.
At that time, you have to deal with it. Yeah, and we did.
Oh, well done. How long did it take you to sort out?
Yeah, it was the
whole day.
It was the whole day.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but it was fine. It was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
We did it. Yeah.
And no one will have noticed.
No.
Brilliant.
No. But that's, as you know, it's all what goes on behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
As long as when it needs to be finished, it is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was.
Brilliant. And if you hadn't have been a cake designer, what would you have been? What would you, as an alternative career?
Oh. Well, in a previous life, I was an insurance broker.
Okay.
I don't know how really, because I was rubbish at maths. Well, I think I definitely, I could be rich and just swanning around really, doing, you know.
A real housewife of Bexley.
Wow. Yeah, but you'd say that.
You'd be bored.
I would be bored.
You would.
I love what I do.
Yeah.
It can be really stressful, but for me, I love working.
Yeah.
I never want to not work, if I'm honest, because you have to have something to get up for. I find it so motivating. And as you know yourself, with what we do, with weddings and events, our deadlines are real.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what goes on in your personal life, that date is immovable.
Yeah.
It is in the diary and that is it. It doesn't matter who's broke their arm, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
The show goes on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that. I absolutely love that. I mean, there were times I haven't loved it and I'm like, could you just change your wedding date, please? Because both my kids are ill. I think, having said that, it was harder when the kids were young.
Yeah, it's easier as they get older, isn't it?
It is easier as they get older. You know what it's like when they're young. Suddenly they're like throwing up everywhere.
Yeah.
You're like, excuse me, shit, I've got a wedding tomorrow and you're ill. No. No.
You can't be ill.
You can't be ill because I'm just not here. I love what I do.
Brilliant.
It'd definitely be something artistic. Something artistic, yeah.
So what's the funniest thing that's ever happened when delivering a cake?
That's Leeds Castle. Now, Leeds Castle is absolutely beautiful, as you know. But the delivery, you drive through the castle grounds and you have to go over the sort of drawbridge. Apart from the tourists, what you really need a clear path of is the swans. And they don't always play ball. So we've got the cake in the back and we're driving up to the main castle and there is this swan and he is not moving. He is not moving. We were there for 40 minutes.
Oh, no.
Because you can't. Apparently they could really go for you.
Yeah, they're quite vicious, aren't they?
Yeah, they can be vicious. So I'm thinking I can't bib. Obviously I can't bib. Yeah, 40 minutes. We had to wait for one of the rangers to come out and move the bloody swan. And by that time, we were surrounded by tourists. So, we've got a cake in the car, surrounded by tourists, and a swan in front of us. So, yeah, that was quite funny.
Brilliant.
But, yeah.
Excellent.
Just what you want on a hot day with a cake in the back.
Well, thank you so much for coming in to talk to me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I've loved it.
Really informative. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Loved it. Thank you.